Flashback. In previous chapters, Azalen was a teenager, aged 15. Now we return to his childhood. Azalen is 8 years old. Azalen's mother got up from the sofa, nervously wiping her forehead. She turned down the volume on the news when Azalen left his room, and then, when he went to the kitchen to get something to eat, she turned it off completely. The kitchen was adjacent to the living room, and she didn't want Azalen to hear what they were saying on the news. She thought it was too much for an 8-year-old boy. "Azalen, would you like me to make you something to eat?" she asked as she entered the kitchen. "No, I'll just have some yogurt," he replied, and opened the refrigerator. "Are you sure? How about some cucumber sandwiches?" "Yogurt is fine," replied Azalen. "Okay, eat up, Azalen, and we'll be leaving." "To the museum? Already?" Azalen was surprised. It was only 10 o'clock. His school trip to the museum was scheduled for 1 p.m. "Not to the museum. We'll go to the museum later. Before we go there, you have to come with me somewhere," Mom began. Azalen waited for an explanation, but since Mom was having a hard time gathering her thoughts, he asked, "To the store?" "Not to the store. I have no one to leave you with. We're going to vote together." "Oh," replied Azalen, letting her know that he knew what she was talking about, which surprised his mother. "You know there's a vote?" she asked. "Yes, everyone's talking about it at school." "Really? And what are they saying?" His mother was surprised. She had tried to protect her son by not telling him anything, but it turned out that the information had reached him anyway, although perhaps he didn't know what danger it posed. "Well, that there will be a vote on whether to keep or expel the Duis, and that if their expulsion is voted through, they will all be moved from Poland B to Poland A, which is the richer part of Poland. The other part." "Would you like them to stay?" asked Azalen. "Yes, I'll vote for them to stay, Azalenku. It's nice when they're with us. It's pleasant, enjoyable, and this witch hunt against them is some kind of misunderstanding. It's lies. They say that Tumult is planning to attack us, that is, Poland B, and that Poland A will abandon us and not help us," said Azalen, and his mother covered her mouth with her hand, surprised that he knew so much. "If they attack us, some say that the Duis A will prevent us from defending ourselves instead of helping us." "That's not true," said Mom. "But they say that because they have a positive effect on us and our mood, they will take away our ability to act aggressively, and thus we will not be able to defend ourselves." "That's a lie. They don't work that way. They only work on the Werbers. They will help us fight them. They will definitely help us." "They always help us. I can't understand why they lie like that. The media is awful." Azalen shrugged, took the yogurt, and sat down at the table. He started drinking it and felt something move in his pants pocket. After a moment, a small Duis poked its head out of the pocket. A Duis puppy. Duises were something that was a combination of 40% dog, 15% wildcat, 20% some unknown scientific matter that he didn't understand, and 35% recovered Neeps genes. In other words, an extinct species. Neeps resembled Duis, and in fact, Duis were an attempt to recreate him. They were created by a Polish scientist to help people defend themselves against the Tumult and the Werbers that used to attack them regularly. The name Duis itself was a combination of the Polish words ghost and dog, because Duisi were, in a sense, similar to ghosts. They could pass through materials and buildings like ghosts. They could become transparent, and sometimes they would grow larger. Above all, however, they were supposed to help keep people in a good mood. In this way, they would counteract the influence of the Werbers and protect people from their attacks. When they were created, they were small as a hand, and then they grew and reached the size of a block. They had various colors, but always cheerful, strange ears of various shapes, and specific, very large eyes, dark grey with a white rim. The eyes also had different shapes, and inside the eye there were colourful reflections, also in some shape. The Duis that crawled out of his pocket was orange and had eyes and ears in the shape of 3 circles joined together. Duis loved to cuddle and snuggle, and they did so more willingly when someone was in a bad state. Azalen remembered that he had had an unpleasant dream during the night and had woken up several times feeling unhappy. That was probably why Duis had come to him and spent the night with him. When Azalen finished his yogurt, his mother informed him that it was time to get ready. They got dressed, as it was a rather windy morning, and headed to the polls to vote. His mother was very worried about the vote, which affected Azalen's emotions, and the Duesi sensed this. So, as they stood at the bus stop, several Duesi approached Azalen and began to create a colorful cloud around themselves, which flew towards Azalen. He immediately felt better. Their mere presence was enough to lift his spirits, but when they really wanted to cheer someone up, they created a cloud around themselves. One of them even jumped into Azalen's hood. However, he had to get out of it when they entered the building because the security guard refused to let the Dues in, fearing that it might influence the voting results. So Dues jumped onto a road sign next to another Dues lying there. The Dues who had been in the hood a moment ago was a girl because he didn't have a mane like lions do. The other one lying on the sign had such a mane, so he was a boy. Azalen was glad his mother had taken him and was curious about the whole procedure. They stood in line and received their ballot cards, then hid behind a white and red cardboard screen to cast their votes. Mom explained to him why it was so important for the vote to be anonymous, and then showed him the card. It had the word referendum written on it in large letters. Below that, in smaller letters, were the words, I vote for, and 2 options, the Duis to stay and the Duis to be moved. There was also the emblem and flag of Poland B, that is, the Polish flag with a black triangle in the upper right corner with the letter B on it. Mom put a cross next to staying in Duis and dropped the card into the ballot box. They returned home, and it was almost time to go to the museum, but they couldn't agree. Mom wanted Azalen to dress elegantly. After all, it was a museum. Azalen, on the other hand, wanted to go in his favorite new tracksuit. Azalenku, it's a museum. People dress elegantly to go there. It's a very nice, elegant tracksuit. It's black, a formal color, Azalen insisted. But it's not the kind of outfit you wear to museums. Why not? Azalen asked irritably. Because that's how it is in the adult world, his mother replied. The adult world is hopeless, Azalen protested. I want to wear my new tracksuit. My friends will laugh at me, and besides, I want to show it to Rugi. Your friends will definitely be dressed up, replied his mother. And Rugi will see it anyway. She'll have plenty of opportunities. They couldn't agree, so they compromised. Azalen put on the blue shirt his mother had prepared for him. Over it, he wore his tracksuit and elegant patent leather shoes. Azalen looked at himself in the mirror and was finally very pleased. His mother was less so. She wanted to see Azalen in the suit she had prepared for him, but Azalen refused categorically. So as they left, she looked regretfully at the suit. She drove Azalen to the museum. His teacher and a group of children were already standing there, and Azalen immediately spotted Rugi, his friend, whom Azalen thought was very cool. She had a typically Slavic beauty, mousy, wavy hair, but her eyes were less Slavic, brown. She was cool in general. We're going in now, said the teacher, handing out leaflets describing the paintings they would be seeing today. They went inside and stood in a room full of paintings. In these paintings, you will find the history of Poland, and sometimes the world. If you want, you can come with me and I will tell you what happened in order. If you want, you can view the paintings on your own. Those who want to come with me, please stand next to me. The rest of you, meet me at the exit in an hour." "Let's go on our own," said Azalen. Rugi eagerly agreed. "We'll find out less, but it's always better to do it yourself," she replied. "Look," she said to Azalen, and showed him the first picture from the leaflet. "It shows the colonization of Mars, the colonization of the Polish part." They approached the picture showing the orange planet with the Polish flag planted on it. "And here is the spaceship we flew there in," she added, pointing to another picture. Azalen couldn't help it. His imagination started working, and he began to dream. He thought about how he and Rugisia boarded the spaceship and flew into space. How his beloved stuffed shark toy, Mr. Tooth, dressed in an astronaut suit, explored the ship, while he and Rugi floated in the air and flew due to the lack of gravity. They were fooling around, and in the meantime, 2 friendly UFOs knocked on the windows and showed them the words, "Welcome." He told Rugisia about it, but she didn't seem to catch on. "I don't know, Azalenku. There were no aliens there," she replied. But Azalen was not discouraged. They moved on to the next painting, which depicted the kings of Poland. Rugi tried to read something about it in a leaflet, but Azalen was thinking again. Once more, his imagination ran wild. He was on the throne, next to Rugi's. He was wearing his favorite tracksuit, maybe a little different from the one he had on now, and she was wearing a beautiful dress. They were both wearing beautiful royal robes, and between them sat Mr. Tooth, his advisor, his right-hand man. Rugisia laughed at the idea when he told her about it. "Quite funny," she replied, "but sitting on a throne seems incredibly boring." "Can you imagine sitting there all day?" she asked. "We sit all day at school, too," he replied. "I'd rather be king." They approached another painting, a painting of Slavs, or rather the first Polans. They were sitting in a meadow, dressed in Slavic clothes, with a statue behind them. It was probably some kind of god carved in stone, and Azalen began to dream again. He and Rugi among beautiful wildflowers, both with wreaths on their heads. Behind them, let there also be a statue in the shape of Mr. Tooth. Rugi smiled. When they approached the next painting, Rugi stepped back and grabbed Azalen's hand, and he felt exceptionally brave because he didn't back away at all. In front of them hung a painting full of dinosaurs, larger and smaller, flying and non-flying. "I don't like them," said Rugi. "They're really scary," she added. "It says here that dinosaurs once lived in Poland. Azalen saw it. They are standing in a wasteland, and a huge dinosaur appears in front of them. Rugi hides behind him. Next to him are his 2 friends, Mor and Derwan, both scared. A huge pterodactyl, a flying dinosaur, snatches Derwan, and the dinosaur in front of them presses forward. But Azalen, fearless, raises the lightsaber he had on his belt and defends them all. The dinosaur in front of them runs away. Mor is shocked by his friend's heroism and gives him a thumbs up in recognition. Derwan, upside down because he was kidnapped by the pterodactyl, claps anyway, and Rugi admires him. He didn't tell her that. It might be a little too crazy. He shortened it to the version that if he had a lightsaber, he would have defeated it without any problems. "And where would a lightsaber come from?" she asked. Azalenek couldn't take it anymore. He had tried so hard, behaved heroically, risked his life and health, and Rugisia didn't appreciate it. "Are you coming, Azalenek?" she asked, standing in front of another painting. Azalenek trudged gloomily after her, knowing that he couldn't count on recognition for his great deeds. Maybe they were only deeds in his mind, but if it had really happened, that's what he would have done. The hour passed quickly, and they lined up at the door, where their teacher was waiting for them. They sat down on a nearby wall outside the museum to take a lunch break before their parents picked them up. Azalen took out a sandwich, and Rugi took out a chocolate wafer.
"Do you like superheroes?" asked Rugi.
"I do," replied Azalenek.
"I thought so, after you told me about that lightsaber in the museum. There's a movie about superheroes at the cinema. We can go if you want."
Azalen was delighted. "Would you like to be a superhero?" Rugi asked him.
"Of course I would," he replied with conviction.
"What if it were difficult?"
"Do you think I would be a bad superhero?"
"No, I think it would be difficult. But I think you would be a superhero. You would be Azalenek Sweet Waffle."
"Why Sweet Waffle?" asked Azalen.
"Because chocolate waffles are the best." She pointed to the waffle she was eating.
"And you, Azalen, are like that waffle to me. The best. And that's what you would be as a superhero."
Azalena smiled from ear to ear, and his cheeks flushed red. It was truly wonderful news.
"Would you like to be a superhero?" asked Azalen. "Would you defend me if I was in trouble?"
"I would," he replied.
"Then I would like that," she replied.
And then they started eating.